Hello, it's another day of learning at home and I hope you're doing well. Did you know that this man has kept a mini garden sealed up in a glass bottle for the last 60 years? That's right, the first time he sealed it up was in 1960. Since then he's only opened it up to water it once, and that was in 1972. To give you some context, 1972 is when digital watches first came onto the scene and when the first handheld calculators were made available to buy. So that means for over 60 years, this plant has survived by recycling nutrients, water, and air. When you keep plants inside a glass container, it's called a terrarium. Here's a picture of a desert terrarium that I made before using plants that would come from very hot places. I've also got another one that I created inside a glass bottle like this. But what I haven't done is make one that's sealed up. So today we're going to see if we can make our very own garden in a bottle. Let's get started. You'll need a clean jar with a lid. Then it's time to head outside and look around you. First you'll need a handful of stones. We'll explain why in a minute. Then it's up to you. Just look for some plants that will be suitable, that look interesting. Make sure you don't take any plants that people are actually trying to grow. All of these are just weeds from a back area near my house. Make sure you get the roots too, else they won't grow. If in doubt, plants that grow in damp areas often do the best in terrariums, so I tried to take those. Big plants probably won't do quite as well in your terrarium because it's so small, but part of this is an experiment, so why not try? The rocks go in first. They create a bottom layer that traps all the water, stopping the soil from getting waterlogged. Make sure it's a nice even layer. Next you're going to want to put the soil in. I would reuse a piece of scrap paper, roll it into a cone so that the soil goes in without making a big mess. Whoops! You want to fill about 1/3 or 1/2 of your container. If your soil's quite dry like mine, remember that it'll shrink down quite a bit when you put water in it. Remember to clean up any mess you make. Putting the soil at a slant adds perspective to your terrarium. See, I've got my 2 layers and my diagonal line of soil. You want to take your time with this bit. I haven't shown it here, but I actually put this together 2 times. The first time I wasn't happy with it, so I took it apart. I'm using these long tongs because my hands are too fat to reach into the jar. Hopefully, you'll find it a bit easier than me. I'm putting the moss in the front because it's smaller, and then I'm putting in the grass. The grass is too big in one chunk, so I'm going to break it up and put it on either side. Here's the plant I found with really nice red leaves. I haven't shown it here, but I'm making sure that the roots that I picked up very carefully are actually being planted straight back into the soil. This will help the plant to grow and take root. Add in all the different kinds of plants. Generally, it's better to put the bigger plants at the back and the smaller plants to the front. It helps to move around and look at your terrarium from different perspectives to make sure that it looks good from all sides. You might need to take some of the little branches or leaves off of the plants before you put them in. Just be careful not to damage the roots. Then have a really good look and make sure that you're happy with the finished result. Now's the hardest part. It's time to add water, but don't add too much that the plants drown, and don't add too little that they dry out. You can always check this later. I'm pretty pleased with this, but if you're not happy with it, you can always redo it. Finally, let's put the lid on our mini ecosystem and watch it grow. Do you remember that terrarium I showed you right at the beginning that I'd made? Well, this is it now. What happened, you say? Well, it was so green. Well, unfortunately, looking after a terrarium is almost as tricky as making it. There's a couple of things that you need to think about. First of all, you need to put it in the right place. If it's in the sunlight during the day, it's going to be like a little oven and the whole thing's going to cook. Don't do it, it'll just die. Secondly, you're going to have to make sure that there's not too much water and not too little water. How do you do that? Well, when you're first setting it up, put in as much water as you need to make the soil sort of moist, but you shouldn't see lots and lots of water at the bottom where the stones are. Then, the best way to check it is in the evening, and in the morning, you should see a little bit of condensation. Can you see how the water is gathering on the top here? That's what's supposed to happen. Basically, what's happening is the water is evaporating from the soil, and because it's got nowhere to go at the top, although mine does have a little hole, it condenses on the glass and then it runs back down, just like rain. However, if there's too much, your plants will just rot away, which is what actually happened in this thing, until I let it dry out a little bit. I took the cork out, let it dry out, and now you can see the plants are starting to grow again. This big guy wasn't even there at the beginning, so he's a bit of a surprise. The fun thing about terrariums is they're sort of like an experiment. What might happen with my terrarium that I've just made is it may just all die, and then when it's all gone, something else might grow in its place. The other thing that's quite interesting is, watch it for a couple days, and you might start to see that there's a couple of creepy crawlies in there. Kind of gross, you might say, but at least the lid's on. The main thing though is that those creepy crawlies actually have a function to play in this system. It's sort of like my aquarium. I've got shrimp, I've got snails, I've got fish, but all those different creatures play a role in the ecosystem. I'm really looking forward to seeing all of your mini worlds that you come up with. Remember to send me a picture of them finished, and let me know if you've got any questions about how to look after them. Happy building!